Welcome to the Shatterproof Entrepreneur, the podcast dedicated to uncovering the strategies that make businesses unbreakable. Today, we are privileged to host Kristy Barber, a distinguished expert renowned for her ability to enhance profitability through sophisticated systems and processes. Kristy, welcome to the show.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
So systems and processes are really important for me. My entrepreneurial journey started with Michael Gerber's book, The E-Myth Revisited, which is all about systems and processes. And I'm also a big Traction fan. But you take systems and processes and you really have niched it down and use systems and process accounting departments. Is that right?
Yes. Yeah, because you see a lot in there. I think people forget that accounting departments need systems and processes at a really condensed level where you think about it operationally. You always are like, oh yeah, we have systems and processes out there. And then accounting department sometimes is an afterthought because we just need to make sure it collects money and pays bills.
Yeah. So what kind of companies do you work with?
Wide variety. I work with a lot of manufacturing companies, e-commerce, and then service-based companies.
What are some, so what kind of problems do people come to you with, or what kind of problems are they experiencing when they reach out to you and say, hey, Kristy, we need help?
Biggest one is with accounts receivable. They'll have, hey, we got all these invoices that are sitting out here and it's been 45 days plus, it's been 90 days plus, and we haven't been able to receive payment on these. What do we do? And how do we make this so it doesn't happen? And I went in with a company last year, they had that issue. And I mean, they were on a little bit smaller scale. So they had about $100,000 sitting out there, which is still, it's $100,000 that you would like to get, and coming up with a process of when we invoice our customers and clients, what does that look like? And then we also put into a contract when they start doing business with these particular clients of this is how we pay things. And kind of helping speed up that process of you may have your own net terms, but these are our net terms, and providing a lot of clarity of we're a net 30 company and we need to kind of make sure that you can sign off on that and get us paid. And then being able to put away, just sending reminders out. A lot of times, depending on which software people use, a lot are on QuickBooks. And QuickBooks is really good about sending reminders so many days before it's due, so many days when it's past due, day of, and we kind of customize those to give reminders maybe 7 days before or 10 days before. And that really helped clean it up.
Yeah, I bet so. Yeah, that's an interesting problem that I don't have anymore. We switched our firm to being subscription based 12 years ago. And so we really don't have any receivable issues anymore, which was one of the reasons I was interested in doing it. And so I don't have that have to deal with that side of it. We still have billings happening in the background through credit card processing companies, and then we have to chase credit cards and that kind of stuff. But at least we don't have really any receivables piling up. QuickBooks is one of the tools that you can use. I know that you're a technology person. My friend Tom Ziegler considers himself a technology geek and really likes that stuff. What sort of technology have you been using recently and that people should know about?
There's a wide variety out there, and kind of just looking through what does your company need and evaluating what that is. It could be something as simple as revisiting, do you have an expense management software? Are you being, like a Concur or Expensify, where your team is, maybe they're out there traveling or they're using a company card to buy things, and then it comes back to the accounting department. They're like, hey, we saw you spent $50 here. What's that for? Other than you just see who the merchant was, and be able to utilize the software that way to capture the receipts, because nobody carries those around, and 3/4 of the time they fade away and you're holding it up. You're like, what ink is on here still? Yeah. So that's always fun. So I've helped some companies kind of look at solutions, and then they've been on sometimes certain expense management systems, and it doesn't meet their needs. And so going back out and saying, what are you really looking for? And then let's find a solution that can meet those needs.
And so you come in as a consultant to for that company and have a consulting agreement? Okay.
Yep. Yeah. And we'll also look at sometimes as simple as inventory management software. I have some clients that they're really small. They maybe have 4 or 5 people max, and they manufacture items and they're still shipping it out of their house. And but they're managing everything in an Excel spreadsheet, and sometimes it gets to be, we actually have too much inventory to manage in there effectively, and then finding a solution that fits their needs, because they're not big enough yet where they would need an ERP software, but still there's a lot of solutions out there that will sync with QuickBooks, like a Fishbowl or Katana, and you can keep those and grow with them.
Wow. So you use a lot of different software for your
There's a
clients.
lot of different things. Yeah, and I think that's some of it that can get kind of tricky in the beginning when you're still a really small company and you may not have the resources to buy that next stage of software that has everything built into it for you, meaning more like the ERP, whether that's a NetSuite or a Sage. So in the meantime, it's kind of doing a best of breed model, and we're hooking things in that and making them all work.
Okay. So what would you say are the key systems or processes that you believe every manufacturing or distribution company should be implementing, no matter what their size?
No matter what the size, you should always have, I think starting out day one, you always need a finance solution. So you got to be able to invoice people, you got to be able to pay your bills, and you needed to have it to do at least basic reporting, if not a little bit more advanced reporting, to help make decisions and strategically lead your business where it needs to go. That's a huge part of it. And then you always need an inventory solution as well, so you can manage what are your true costs, how quickly is my inventory turning over, where is it, can I, what materials, they do this thing called vendor scorecards. So if I'm buying inventory from these vendors, are my vendors giving me the best products? Or have I had to expect them too many times and I'm sending them back because there's flaws with it? Then I need to evaluate and say, hey, you know what? I probably should look at a different vendor, because these guys, they're just not giving me as good of a product as they had in the past. And, being able to have all those conversations. So it's ways to set up and mitigate some risks along there. And then I would say, depending on kind of how things are set up, you always need some type of shipping software, whether that's you're just using a portal through UPS or FedEx, but there's also solutions like ShipStation that kind of go out to market and see what everybody's prices are and can help you navigate that and see what fits into your pricing and to hit your actual margins that you want to stay in.
Okay. So to do all that, you're utilizing a lot of different software packages. Are you able to come in and make those packages talk to each other?
So depending on what you're looking at, trying to look at software that everything can speak to each other. So you look at who has an open API and are there direct connections. So QuickBooks is known today, they API with a handful of solutions. And then there's other solutions out there that they don't talk to anybody very well. And then you get to a point where, hey, I'm going to need other types of software and they don't work with the smaller systems I have today. So I'm going to have to start saving up money and then go to the next rung of, software to run a manufacturing company.
Okay. Yeah, because I know that's a problem we have here is just we have so many different software packages in our technology stack and some of them don't talk well with each other, and that can be a pain. So I can imagine on the accounting side, it really would be like you were talking about the expense management. You'd want it to talk to your QuickBooks so that on the financial side, so that it's all not having to have to be manually entered, but it could somehow be compiled.
Yeah,
How did
I'm sure
you?
you probably have that too, right? Where you're looking at things and you're manually looking on an Excel spreadsheet, and then you got to hand key it in here, or you're looking at things just on Excel to be able to make a decision, because maybe it's not even worth the time to take the data out of one and put it in another in detail, and you just kind of lump a number in there.
Do you help your clients create dashboards to be able to watch all these important numbers that are part of those systems?
So it depends. Some of the software will come with dashboards, and then depending on if they need something that's more robust, I'll contract out with another company that I know well, and then have them build those out in detail. And they're usually using software like a Tableau or Zoho that can pull data and create unique dashboards that are specific to your need.
Right. Okay. I've seen that in a few companies.
Hey there, it's Scott Reed, cutting in for a quick moment. If you're enjoying the podcast and finding value in our discussions, you're going to love the Access Plan. It's designed for entrepreneurs like you, offering unlimited legal advice without the worry of high hourly fees. With the Access Plan, you can get the legal support you need at a flat monthly rate so you can focus on growing your business with confidence. Head over to reblaw.com/access to learn more and join Access now and get busy shatterproofing your business. Now let's get back to our amazing guest.
Well, how did you learn how to do all this?
I don't know. Honestly, I think it's just, how sometimes you just have certain things that you're just gifted with from day one, and you
Yeah.
don't really know how you got the skill set. I always think of my brother that way too. He does some architecture work and things like that, and he never went to school for it. He just knew how to do it. And,
Wow.
then once you get to school, he took some classes later on, but it was just second nature. And I think my thing is how my mind thinks, and I'm always looking for what is the best way that something can get done where there's still good quality, but it's efficient. And even as a little kid, I'd walk around, I'm like, well, we could do this a different way. And, you see people being like, well, okay, just trust the process. Well, that's great, but we could probably do it this way.
Right.
And how when I worked in corporate America for a very short period of time, because they don't really necessarily like the efficiency sometimes that I would bring to the meetings, and like, oh, that's great. Well, we've done things like this since 1948. I'm like, that's great. So much room for change. And how can we make something work better? And they're like, that's okay. Thanks for your opinion, but we're going to stay over here. And I think it was just taking those skill sets and then learning, whether it was by reading or talking to people that specifically did what I did, and then honing more in on like this for some reason. And I know this is not the general public, but it's exciting. I think it's fun. And even with accounting, there's things that I'm like, oh, this is telling such a great story. And how many of my clients are like, that's great. That's why we pay you to tell us what it says, because that's not their level of expertise.
That's very interesting. So yeah, so your accounting tells the story about the status of your business, tells the story of where you are. It also can do some projection, so it can tell some stories about the future of your business. And you're saying that by having these systems and processes, you get a clearer story. Would that be correct?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, if I heard you right, as we chatted before we started recording, you said that you've had this business about 9 years. Is that right?
Yep, about 9 years.
So, so before that, is that when you were in the corporate world, or what did you do before this consulting?
Yeah. So before that, I was either in the corporate world or I worked for a couple of different small businesses. And I think where the love for manufacturing kind of started too is I was a CFO of a manufacturing company. And that's, I think, where the kind of those systems and processes got kicked off in there too, because you're measuring, hey, how many widgets does this machine make a day? And how long can I let a machine run, or how long is the process going to take before I can produce this and get it shipped out to my customer? And then you look at the engineering side, you got the R&D people, and they're like, hey, we could actually make this bigger and better and faster, and this is the way we're going to do it, and here's how it goes down. And then it's a domino effect, and it's really cool to see. And I enjoyed working there and understanding how it all worked. And then I ended up moving and went into a corporate job doing finance. And that's where that wasn't a very fulfilling job, because there wasn't this room for growth in there and new ideas. And it was pretty much, we just do these things and we always do these things. And that's great. There's jobs like that are made for people that like predictability and they know what's going to come. My mind just doesn't think that way. And I get bored very easily in settings like that.
Yeah. And I can tell that you're passionate about this, putting systems and processes in place and and improving efficiency. You can tell it lights up you light up. It's exciting. It's exciting
Yeah.
for you, which is great, because it's not exciting for a lot of people, but you love it.
Exactly.
So we need you. One of my core values is that problems are meant to be solved. And that's the fun in life, is there's problems to be solved. If there's no problems to be solved, I'd be pretty bored. So it's like, how can we fix this problem? How can we do this better? So I kind of get how you like to do that. So hopefully you don't just work all the time. How do you kind of balance work? You live in a beautiful part of the country, and in Colorado. What do you do for fun?
Do a lot, just out with friends a lot, getting outside. There's a lot to do here, which is really cool. Whether you want to go to the mountains and, go to the lakes up there, I'll do that, working out, running, and then, just spending time with family and friends.
Have you always been in Colorado area?
No, originally from California, and then kind of moved out here with some friends quite some time ago, and then never went back.
Yeah. And California's got some beautiful places too, for sure. But
it does.
hard to beat those Rocky Mountains, it seems like. Well,
Yeah.
what
and
is
I would
what is
say
next for you?
Colorado. What is it?
No, go ahead.
Oh, I would say Colorado probably has, out of anywhere I've visited in the United States so far, I think Colorado has the best sunsets, even better than California. So if anybody makes it out here, you'll have to take a moment and watch.
Take your time. So take a beat and check that out. Like I said, I'll be heading that way soon. So you mentioned that a lot of people are resistant to change. And I got to do some coaching. I've got lots of clients that are business coaches and consultants. And sometimes you go into a business that's asked you to come in because someone there realizes there's a problem, but everyone's not on board with that change. Have you run into that? How do you deal with it?
A lot.
How do you do it?
Very different ways. And I'm sure you see this too, is you walk in and it could be one person or it could be the whole company. Like, oh my gosh, we're so excited for this change. And like, hey, who wants to lead it? And then they all walk out the room. They're like, no, we don't want any part of this. You just let us know when it's all done and we'll attempt to accept it. And so it's coming in with a plan of how you're going to teach people to accept the change. And in general, human nature is we hate change. We like predictability to a certain extent, and knowing the outcome and knowing that there's security in it. And how many times when you come in and you're trying to bring change into an organization, it's, oh my gosh, is my job still going to be here tomorrow? Am I going to get replaced? Am I going to go have to totally change what I do? And being able to put a plan together so people know, hey, it's going to be okay. It's more so we're taking away some of the tactical work that you do and moving you to a more strategic type of work because you're brilliant and we want to utilize you in this way. And I've found that when it's overly communicated, what is the purpose, what is the value that's coming out of the change, that helps people understand, and it eliminates a lot of the fear.
Okay, that sounds really smart. So what's Kristy Barber going to do next? What's coming up?
Coming up next, I'm working on, I published a book at the beginning of the year, just as a way to check off on my list to say, hey, I've done something. It's something I've wanted to do for a really long time. So it's just to help small business owners understand, systems, processes, accounting, everything out there. And then coming up, it is called Simple Business Growth. And you can find it on Amazon. It's on my website. And so it was a lot of fun to write and put together. And it was good. So I'm doing that, and then just helping continually refine product offerings and helping more people all the time, because that's what I love to do the most. And I think they always say if you're doing something that you love, that even if you never got paid for it, you would still love doing it. And that's a lot of what I do.
Good. So I know that the listeners would like to connect with you. What's the best way to do that?
Best way to connect with me is on my website, KristyBarber.com. There's a way to contact. I'm also on all the variety of social medias out there, and you can always connect with me on LinkedIn too. I'm pretty active on there.
Great. And I know you mentioned in our chat that you have a white paper that you think would be important for the listeners to get a hold of.
Yeah, if you go to the website under resources, I have a white paper download that kind of walks you through how to evaluate the current systems and processes you have in your organization, and seeing maybe things that you need to get rid of or ways to add other components in there to make your business run a little bit more smooth.
Great. So we'll make sure that there's links to that and your book in the show notes so that the listeners and viewers can go get that stuff and start implementing it in their business today. I really thank you for coming on. And as we close, I'd like to offer you a blessing. May the road rise to meet you. May the wind be always at your back. May the sun shine warm upon your face, and may the rains fall upon your fields. Until we meet again, may God hold you in the palm of his hand. Ladies and gentlemen, if you've enjoyed this show and found the value that I have, please like and subscribe. Until next week, stay Shatterproof.
This podcast is for informational purposes only and should not be taken as professional advice. While I'm your host, Scott Reed, I'm a lawyer. I'm not your lawyer, and this podcast does not establish an attorney-client relationship. The views expressed by my guests are their own and not mine, and they may not even reflect the opinion of the Shatterproof Entrepreneur Podcast. So we strive to provide valuable and accurate content, but we make no representations as to the accuracy, completeness, or suitability of any information to your particular situation, and won't be liable for any errors or omissions for the application of them. Always consult a professional or in the respective area that we've discussed before making any personal or business decisions.